I want to spend a little time today on this issue with Iran and the US and how it's going to affect the region. I got to let you know from the start that this is not fear mongering. This is reality based on the supply chain risk, the food insecurity, and the fragile energy systems that we have right now in the region. Okay? Let me first look at the global supply chaos that will take place. Because from all of the news, it looks like this thing could go down very soon. A war between the US and Iran would disrupt the oil markets at unprecedented levels, especially if the Straits of Hormuz is affected. Up to 20% of global oil exports flow through that narrow waterway. And if Iran closes it or retaliates, global fuel prices would skyrocket and shipments could stall. Now, why is this bad for us? The Caribbean imports nearly all of its food and almost all of its fuel. Some countries depend on imports for over 60% of their food, meaning without imports, shelves in the region is going to go empty. No fuel for the electricity, no fuel for cooking gas, no fuel for public transport, no food coming in, or we're faced with sky high prices. Now, this isn't going to be a shock. It is going to be what we call catastrophe in the making. And then you could look at a food supply collapse, talking about generally around the world, and it will be bad for us here. The Caribbean is already battling food insecurity. We have the land, but nobody wants to grow. So nearly 43% of people across this region face food shortages, even in peacetime, means when there is no war. So if that is the situation when there's no war, without reliable imports, what do you think is going to happen? Grain supplies could dry up. Flour, rice, and protein staples will vanish. Prices would double or triple. Like I said, we have the land, but nobody wants to plant. Everybody wants to bring in a container. Farmers simply cannot replace this gap quickly, and ports could be blocked or overwhelmed. To that, you're talking about energy blackouts, where you have the Caribbean energy systems, which are extremely fragile. As the old people say, some wind blow and the electricity is out. Cuba is already facing power cuts. We saw what happened there. Blackouts, hospital crises due to fuel blockade issues, even without war. Some people don't have electricity in these institutions. So what do you think is going to happen? Now imagine no imported fuel, no electricity in major islands, hospitals on generator power only, water systems begin to fail, and refrigeration stops. Food spoils. So I'm talking about blackouts that could last weeks, and life support systems for people in hospitals could collapse. No electricity equals no water equals no healthcare. It's a bad situation that we could find ourselves in, and it is going to be very unprecedented. That brings me to my favorite part of everything: communication and emergency response. Or communications become lifelines. With rising fuel and supply shortages, you're talking about cell towers could lose their power because most of them run on that in the region, not solar. Satellite uplinks in the region can become overwhelmed. Emergency coordination breaks down. All of this people will face. And without communication, response efforts is going to do what? Collapse. No warnings, no coordination, no help. That is why I've been preaching for a long time. Get your backup communication equipment ready. People trapped without news and direction or hope is a hell of a thing. We're looking at disaster in the region, my friends. So what the Caribbean must stockpile right now, if you're living in the region, Mylar bags. Get some Mylar bags in the meantime, because you're going to need that to store these things for a long time. High energy biscuits, ready to eat meals, canned proteins, tuna, sardine. You're looking at cooking oil, because these could actually sustain communities when imports stop. I'm talking about for the average man, what he can get, because a lot of people will not be able to get the grains that will be able to store. So I'm talking about the basic thing that he can get when it comes to energy. fuel reserves like diesel, gasoline, kerosene. Some of us have no problem going back to firewood, and generators, if you can get for power and water system, then if you can get the diesel and put it down for these things, it'll be fine. Most of all, I advocate for solar power kits and batteries. Solar is going to last for a long time. The sun is out. Portable chargers. And when it comes to water, I'm talking about water purification tablets, bottled water reserves. That is necessary. And then you're talking about storage tanks for rainwater harvesting. And on top of that, when it comes to medical and emergency, this is very, very important. A lot of people in the region are sick because they're not eating healthy foods. Prescription medicines, you're talking about sanitation supplies, medical oxygen tanks for those who will need it. And you also added to that is your communication kits. For those of you who can afford, satellite phones and portable radios will be really a good thing. Solar chargers, I'm talking about CB radios, emergency beacon systems, those of you who have ham and inter-ham and ham radios, which is good. These are not luxuries when you have war anywhere in the world. These are life support systems, okay? Taking my time to do this because people need to be prepared. The Caribbean cannot afford to ignore this threat any longer. I didn't hear anything at the recent CARICOM summit, which is very disheartening. There's no preparation for anything in this region. And governments must act now, not tomorrow, to stockpile, to protect citizens, and to prepare. Okay? Anyway, guys, I'm going to talk to you in the next video. Drop your thoughts below. Do you think Caribbean leaders are ready, or we are about to wake up in the worst nightmare of our generation? That's a question. Like, share, and subscribe, because this video could save somebody's life. Talk to you again.